This is the plaintiff, Jocelyn Diller. She says her neighbor's dog stuck his snout under her fence and grabbed her dog Ace's front paw, mauling it. Ace is her baby. She was traumatized by this attack and is suing her rude neighbor for the $1,684.96 she's owed in vet bills. This is the defendant, Kevin Gallagher. He says the plaintiff's dog has been digging holes under the fence, and the plaintiff does nothing about it. That fence is not the plaintiff's, it's his. Her dog is the troublemaker. She's an irresponsible neighbor, and he owes nothing. He's accused of not mending fences.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket, the plaintiff says that the defendant's dog stuck his paw underneath her fence and grabbed her little dog and mauled it. But the defendant says the plaintiff's dog digs holes under the fence, and that's where all the problems stem from. It's the case of keep your doggone dog out of my yard.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Dillard, tell me what happened here.
I was taking my dog out after work like I do every day. I brought him into my small piece of the yard. He was up against Mr. Gallagher's fence that happens to separate my yard from his. He was using the bathroom. And
Is your yard fenced or no?
Yes, all around the yard is fenced in. So he was up against the fence to use the bathroom, and all of a sudden the dog came up from under the fence and just snatched my dog's paw. My dog was trying to come out of it, but he couldn't, so I went over there. I stuck my hand under the fence, was trying to mush the dog. Finally, the dog let go. Me and my dog fell back.
What was his dog grabbing your dog with? His paws, his
mouth.
Snout? Okay.
Yes, he
had your
grabbed my
dog's paw in his mouth. Okay.
Yes, correct.
All right. Has something like this ever happened before?
No.
And so that fence doesn't reach all the way to the ground? It ends how many inches up?
Maybe an inch, inch and a half up. It's enough.
So how did he get his snout underneath?
I'm honestly not 100% sure. I just saw the dog's snout, black with the white fur. That's all I saw on my dog's paw when my dog was trying to pull his arm back out from under the fence.
So what did you do how did you get the dog to let go, his dog?
I was just mushing at the dog's face. I managed to get my arm up under the fence.
Whose dog is barking? Is that your dog,
That's
Mr. Gallagher, barking? I want to know who's objecting. It's your dog's objecting to her testimony. Okay, so what does mush mean? What does the verb mush mean? What does mush mean? What did you do?
Like push. I didn't not like punch, just like a push. I just tried to push it the dog's face.
All right,
back
so
under the
eventually
fence.
this dog let go and you took your dog to the vet. Did the dog get stitches? Did your dog what did they do for your dog for $1,600?
They had to shave his arm because he had surface wounds all on his arm. So they had to laser shave it to get to the wounds, make sure they're not infected. And on his paw, he actually had to get some stitches. We didn't think that it was that deep, but then when they looked further, they noticed that it was actually a deep puncture wound, so they had to stitch it up.
All right, Mr. Gallagher, what do you say happened? You were just rolling your eyes. What do you say happened?
I came home from work. I was late, and then I let the dogs out, and they only went out for a minute, and I was surprised because they'd been in the house all day. But I guess they just wanted to eat because I was late. And they came in, I fed them, and I didn't shut the back door all the way. It was maybe an inch and a half open, and Odin, the white one, he knows how to open the storm door. And I went back to cleaning the stove, and I heard the door open and close. I went over there and I called Odin because I could hear him barking, and I called him, and he came and he looked at me and he went back where I can't see him behind the shed. And they both came in. He was only outside 30 seconds, 45 seconds at the most. Yeah, it wasn't long.
Yeah, it doesn't take long. Right.
Yeah.
And so whose fence is it? Is it your fence or her fence? Whose fence is it?
It's my fence. It's my fence.
Okay, and does the fence stop shy of the ground, or is it that the dogs have been making holes?
It touches the ground in some areas. In other areas, there's like an inch, inch and a half, and it could have been dug by her dog, dug by my dog. I don't know. It doesn't look like my dog because it looks like it's dug down into her yard.
What is this a picture of?
That's the new fence.
Is this the new fence? All
Yes.
right, so how wide is that gap that's underneath there?
It's only about an inch and a half. and it was put right along the old fence line. That's Odin.
Odin's a beautiful dog. I see cinder blocks back there. Is that on your side?
Yeah.
You put the cinder blocks up at
Yes.
the suggestion of animal control or the police. So did you ever speak with Mr. Gallagher about it and say, hey, you need to pay these vet bills, or did you guys ever communicate?
I went to his house the next day to just explain and see if he saw anything. He told me that he didn't want to go through any small claims or courts, and that if I just send him the bills that he'll pay. I did send them certified mail. They attempted 3 times before it got sent back to me, and that's when I went through a small claim court.
Mr. Gallagher, according to her, you weren't picking up your certified mail, but did you ever say to her, I'll pay your vet bills, sorry this happened, or did that conversation ever happen?
She came over with some woman who tried to present herself as a lawyer, I guess. She said that she represented her, and she wanted to know if I was going to go through my homeowner's insurance. I said, no. I said, I'm not going through my homeowner's insurance. And she said, well, it's $1,000 now, and it's going to be more because the dog has to keep going back. And she says, how are you going to pay for this? And I said, I don't know. I said, if I have to pay something, I'll pay something, but I don't know if I have to pay it or not. I just wanted them to leave.
So let's talk about that. Okay, let's talk about that.
Welcome back to the People's Court. The question, is the defendant responsible for paying vet bills, which could go way into the future? Let's go back inside the courtroom, find out.
Here's what the law is in your state. Every state has a different law governing this type of situation. Some states have what the law calls strict liability. And that means if your dog does any damage to either a person or their property, you are liable unless that person or property was A, trespassing, or B, taunting, teasing, or agitating, taunting or teasing your dog, like was asking for it. All right. So frankly, we've got a situation where either her dog trespassed, and it's an exception, or your dog stuck his nose in, and it's not an exception. I have one witness, and that's Ms. Dillard. You're not actually a witness to what happened. You do tell me that, yes, there are gaps. It is your offense. But honestly, just if there was no fence, okay, or if the fence went all the way down, but somehow her dog had made a burrow and your dog goes over, it's over. Once your dog goes over, it's over. And the only evidence about whether your dog went over to bite, as opposed to her dog taking its paw and going like this under the fence so that your dog could bite, which I doubt happened, okay, is her testimony. So when that's the case, it's strict liability on your part. We don't have to get into was the fence low enough. You as that dog's owner, as Odin's owner, are responsible for the vet bills 100%. 100%, unless you can show me that her dog was trespassing or her dog was taunting, teasing, whatever, which you can't because you weren't really there at the fence. So I have to find, and I've looked at the vet bills, it's $1,648.96, which is high, but it is what it is. I have to find in her favor and order you to pay those vet bills. Hopefully this isn't a situation where this is going to happen again because one or both of you are taking care of where the gaps are, but my verdict in this case is for the plaintiff because that's what the law is in your states. $1,648.96. Good luck, folks.
Thank you.
So the plaintiff prevails. She is going to get that fee, more than $1,600, the vet bills paid by the defendant. Mr. Gallagher, what do you think about the judge's verdict?
To me, it's physically impossible for him to shove his head underneath that fence. Her dog, in order to be bitten on the leg, the dog's leg had to be in my yard.
You heard the testimony. You didn't see it. She did. And the judge says, therefore, you're 100% liable for the vet bills. Sorry about that, but you got to pay, okay? Let's talk to Ms. Dillard now, the plaintiff in this case. First off, Ms. Dillard, we haven't heard how Ace, your dog, is. How is Ace?
He's doing wonderful now. His fur is all grown back, and he's back outside chasing squirrels, so he's good.
All right, I'm glad Ace is doing good, and congratulations, you've won the case.
Mr. Gallagher, the defendant, named Odin after a Norse god, and you saw the picture, that white German
was a
Shepherd, he
beautiful
definitely
dog.
looks the part, doesn't he?
Beautiful
A really nice
dog.
looking animal. But again, we've talked about this in the past on dog bite cases. Most states are strict liability, and that's the situation here. You had one witness to this case who actually saw what happened, and you had no real contrary
I mean, it's
account.
uncontradicted testimony in the courtroom. There's no, unless there's some reason for me to think she's lying, which there was zero. You know, that's what happened, and that's how it occurred.
And certainly with a fence like that, where you've got a gap underneath it, the next time it could be a toddler or a child who's running after a ball to pick it up or something, and you have to restrain your animal. You can't allow that animal to get underneath the fence, bite someone, hurt someone, etc. So it's really, it's on the homeowner at the end of the day. I mean, you need to make sure that that's blocked off. You've got to restrain that animal within the curtilage or the fence, the edges of your property, 100%.
Yeah.
Okay, Francis wants to know this. Hey, Harvey, I live in a hurricane-prone area, and I've removed all my dangerous trees. I've sent letters to my neighbors warning them of their dangerous trees. Is there anything more I can do to protect my home? That is a problem, because if you have neighbors that have trees that are healthy and a hurricane hits and, you know, it blows the tree down because 150-mile-an-hour winds, it's technically an act of God, and you're not going to have a claim. So I think the best thing to do is just figure out a way of protecting your own house.